All right. Hello, how are you today? I hope that you may have noticed if you're solo today, we're still doing it. I missed you. So I wanted to get the show done. Uh, and I'm here. So Dan isn't joining us today. Maybe we'll have a special guest join us later. But for now, thanks for joining. I hope that you got to catch the Golden Path to Spring 1 episode that was just live a few minutes ago. If you didn't get to catch that is way more valuable than this time, unless you've got questions. If you've got questions, that's what we're here for. This spring office hours is the thing that I wish I had when I was a developer. So I'm bringing it to you. That's what we're trying to do here. We want you to be able to have a resource where you can ask questions, get the help that you need. So let's take a look. The first thing we like to do is look at our calendar. What's been going on? There's a lot happening in the world of spring. So let's add our calendar. And if you're joining, let us know where you're from. Hello world, tell us where you're joining us from. We always get excited to hear where you're from. I'm going to add a window here. Here we go. What is happening in our world? Hello, Thomas. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining us. And let's see what's happening here. So today's the 18th. We've had a ton of releases. I hope that you are taking a look at the latest version of Spring Boot. We have a milestone release that should be on this calendar somewhere. Spring Boot 3.1. Where is that release? I know I'm taking a look at it. Here's Spring Shell. I'm going to jump over here. Or not Spring.io. I tell you, this is what I'm doing. I'm grabbing this milestone release for all the reasons. Specifically, the thing I'm really excited about is some of the stuff that we're doing around test containers. You might want to take a look. It's just going to really make it easy to set up test containers with your projects. And I want you to take a look at that. And Anbu says on the 20th. Hey, that's what it says. It says RC1. Yep, over here I've got a milestone. That's what I'm working on. But the RC1 is coming up on the 20th. Thank you, Anbu, for sharing that. Thank you. And we have joining us from Colombia. Hello, thank you, and welcome. But this ecosystem keeps on moving. I've just got done with a lot of travel. The travel's been amazing. DevNexus was amazing. We did a live episode from DevNexus. And last week was also amazing. The Emerging Technologies for the Enterprise Conference in Philadelphia was exceeded expectations. It was a great conference, and I had a lot of fun. While I was there, I delivered a session on my children will never deploy active passive. So it's just a review of what is active passive versus active, and one way that you could attempt to move closer to a 5.9 situation, delivering active. Use the infrastructure that you have. That's what it was all about. Wonderful. Hello from Russia. Awesome. Thank you. I'm pretty sure I saw you on the Golden Path episode. So thank you for joining. So what is interesting? Anything interesting going on here? I'll drop this down. What is happening in your neck of the woods? Thomas, I know Thomas was looking at Spring Academy and asking about what is happening. Has anybody gone through and done the certification? So if you don't know, Spring Academy is amazing, fairly recent, and it's got all sorts of instruction, courses, learning paths. It's super affordable. If you want to get certified in Spring, there's an option where you can pay for it, get all the stuff, and you get certification included. And one of Thomas's questions was around like, hey, has anybody gone through this all the way? Does it match up with the certification questions? And we got an answer from one of the instructors that says, yes, the things that you're going to find on the courseware on Spring Academy is going to match. And there's not a lot of trick questions on the certification. So the topics that you cover, if you cover all the topics on Spring.Academy, you're going to find yourself in a good position to pass that certification test. And there's no rush. If I understand, you get a full year in order to do this. So take a look. $299 per year. And it includes all the bells and whistles. So take a look at spring.academy when you get the chance. I highly recommend it. I'm hearing lots of good things. Lots of good things. Hello from Bosnia. Wonderful. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you joining. And we said Sivo Labs created a nice video about the new test container support in the upcoming spring boot. That's excellent. That is excellent. I am a big fan of Sivo Labs. I've actually contributed changes to one of his repositories. I used one of his Twitter repositories in the past. Spring Boot Twitter starter, I think it was. So what are you working on? What are you working on these days? Let me know. I like to say at my house at dinner time, if you don't eat, you leave the table hungry, that's your fault. At spring office hours, this is a two-way street. This is a conversation we're trying to have. I want to have answers. I want to help you. I don't have all the answers. Dan definitely has many more. Dan's not joining us today, but I do have Slack, and I would be happy to get the answers. But in order to do that, I got to know where you're at. So let me know where you're at. One of the other things that I'm excited about, I'm always working on the Grawl VM, the AOT processing with Spring Boot. And if we don't have any questions, I will jump in and I'll kind of give a quick overview again of that because it's working. Here's the thing. Upgrading, and we just saw on the Golden Path with Paul Baker from Netflix, there's kind of a process, and now we're kind of validating it, where you've got to upgrade to Java 17 first. Upgrade to Java 17, get the benefits from Java 17, and yeah, that's a super valuable upgrade. Once you've done that, then take on the Spring Boot 3 upgrades. It's a super valuable approach. And one of the thing that I think is most valuable is this AOT processing. It allows me to do really interesting things with some of my workloads. Rajesh, thank you for joining us. So let's do this and let's do an example. I'm going to pull up another screen here and see if we can make it work. So I'm going to share a different view here. I'll share a window. This one. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to start.spring.io. Ask your questions. Proful. I hope I said that right. Thank you for joining us. But ask your questions. And as we go, I'm happy to jump. But if you don't have questions, I'm going to kind of dig in. So let's go to start.spring.io. I'm going to use Maven today for comfort. Let's go ahead and take this milestone release. Let's do some simple things like the actuator. And let's do web. Easy enough. I'm going to leave the rest the same, Java 17. Let's generate that. So Thomas says, I tried to replicate David Sires' SSE example on HTMX on the Spring blog, but I need to hook somehow into the Flux server sent event and render the HTML on each event. Do you know how to do that? I do not know how to do that. But this is, I love this thread that you're on, Thomas, and I'm really excited to hang out with you at the upcoming Spring I/O conference in May. And I know I need to spend more time on this. I need to spend some time on the work that you're doing and dig in. But this is something that you and I should probably do another one of our kind of one-on-one sessions offline, and let's dig in and see if I can help, ask the right questions and get you to where you need to go. But thank you for asking that question. I put it up here on the screen so we can make sure that we get it addressed later. Good question. Is there projects in NASA which use Spring Boot? That is a good question. I don't know the answer to that. That is a good question, but I should find out. That would be really interesting to know. Awesome. Yes, I am very happy to engage offline, to do one-on-one. Like, I need to know where you're at. And I don't always have the answers, but I'm happy to help find the answers. I'm happy to reach out to the people that know. Here's a question. When using the Spring Boot Maven plugin to build a native OCI image, does that image contain a Java app with JVM, or does it contain a native? That is a very good question. That's one I'm excited to dig into. Let's talk about that. So let's do that exact same thing. I will share my screen. Let's do that. Let's talk about it. So I'm making a simple app. I'm going to add this just because, so we can kind of like make it's really just developer tools. But let's dig in the Spring Boot Maven plugin. So we are going to generate our application. Generate, let's go ahead and call it demo. Yep, let's replace that one. I will make a new directory for that. I'll say, hey, demo, hello. And then, oops, let's go into that guy. And let's take a look at this. Trust, yeah, let's trust that. So let's take a look at this project and let's talk about this question. So out of the box, I went to start.spring.io. I made a project, and the first thing I have is I have the Spring Boot Maven plugin. So let's take a look. Oop, not there. Let's go back to our IDE, and let's see what we get. So if I do nvnw Spring Boot build image, what does that do? This is going to take a few seconds. What this is doing, it's using a build pack, and the build pack that it's using. I don't have Docker running, so let me do that real quick. I need to have Docker running in order to use these build packs. So let me do that real quick. While that comes up, let's take a look. It's using build packs, and the build pack that we get out of the box, we get the Paketo.io build pack. And specifically, we get builder Paketo build packs, builder tiny. So this is the one we're getting. Oh, maybe there's a link. That's not the right one. This one. This is what we're getting. Paketo build packs builder. This guy. That's what we get. That exists here in our POM. Hello. In our parent, I think it's this key. Oops. I don't remember what the key is to go look at that. But I can do it this way. I go, whoops, at my parent. Spring Boot starter. Or boot, Spring Boot starter parent. Or why am I not seeing it? I'm looking for org Spring Framework boot, Spring Boot starter parent, Spring Boot starter. Oh, it's probably this one. Maybe not. Why am I not seeing that? Did it not pull it down yet? Anyways, in my parent palm, it's pulling down, and I'm frustrated. I want to. Another one? No. it won't list the parent as a dependency. I want to go to, is that it? No. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to jump to that. I'm all flustered. I don't have my co-pilot. I don't have my guiding light, Dan, here to help me. So I'll ignore it. But that's the one we get out of the box with our parent POM. So why are things showing in red? Again, I'm not going to worry about that. We're just going to do this. I'm going to do this to make sure I can get everything clean package. This is what we're addressing right now. Okay, that worked. Now we're just going to try to build that image. Now that we have Docker running. And what we're going to see is it's going to pull down that. There it is. The kettlebell backs. Oh, builder base. My bad. I said builder tiny. And maybe that's a recent change. No, it's not a recent change. That's right. That's the default. I built builder tiny. So it pulls down this Docker image. This Docker image, this OCI image, is going to be used to generate another OCI image. And what it's doing is it looks at all of the options. So inside of that build pack, there's 26 build packs. And the detect phase of those build packs decided that, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to grab these CA certificates. We're going to use this version of Liberica. We're going to add SIFT. We're going to use this executable jar build pack, this zip build pack, and Spring Boot. So it says, hey, this is what we're going to use as part of our builder process. It goes through and it generates it. And now we have this. We have an image. And this image, because of the way we built it by default, this image, you notice that it didn't use Graal VM. Right? There was no Java native detected here. So that's what we've got. We've got this. And this version, by default, is going to give us our app with a JVM. Hopefully that answers your question. Your follow-up question might be, how do I do that? How do I get a native version of that image? How do I get a native version of that image? In order to do that, because I'm running on an M1, I need to do a little tiny trick. Bear with me. If you're on an M1 as well, here's what you might want to do. I've got the instructions here. Here's the GitHub repository. And here's the change I'm going to make. I'm going to replace this line with this. And this is just because I'm on an M1, which has an ARM64 processor in it. And let's see if we can do this. What could possibly go wrong? We're going to replace this guy. All right, so now instead of using Paketo build pack base, we're going to use this version, which is just an ARM64 version of the same thing. It's as close to upstream as possible, but we're going to create a native image. So in order to do that, this is going to take a little while. MDNW-P native boot build image. Right, that's all I need to do, I think. Native Spring Boot build image, yep. This time, what we should see, again, we're using the M1 release. What we should see is it's downloading my builder. You can make your own builder. And then we'll see my builder has the same build packs bundled in. But what we'll see is one additional one, 6 of 14. This time we see that it's pulling in the native image build pack, the native image build pack. So the output this time is going to be a native version of that image. So inside the image, it'll have, oh, and we ran into a failure. And what does it say? Unable to invoke layer creator, unable to contribute native image layer. So something wrong with my builder. So this is something wrong with my builder. I've been making these changes along the way. So I've got some work to do. If I do this, if I take this same example Let's jump over to a x86 so we can show that demo. Let's do this. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to get a cheat code here. Make the same project. Oops. And let's go at very similar cat. Oh, we don't want that version. Let's try that again. That's version 3.0.2. We'll at least do 3.0.5. So same thing. I'm grabbing, it's using Java 17. I'm just grabbing the web actuator native. So similar project. I'm just putting it on a new version on my x86. So let's do this nbn w -p native. And here I don't need to change my builder version because I'm on an x86. Spring boot build image. It's going to take a lot longer because it is on an x86, but this is going to pull in. Hopefully we'll see. It'll pull in. Oh, can you guys see that? Try to make that a little bit bigger. It's running tests. Oh, I didn't have Docker running on that box. Oh, I'm all sorts of out of ways. So let's take a look. While I do that, good question. Does Cloud Foundry support native image like CF Push? Anbu, you are just you're reading my mind. Like, this is something that's super important. We have there's a lot of Cloud Foundry out there. Cloud Foundry has done some amazing things over the years, and it's still very, very hard to replace. So if you're wanting to do native images on Cloud Foundry, here's what I recommend. I recommend you take a look at this repository. So Cloud Foundry can take native images, but what does that mean? It means that we're going to take those native images. It doesn't have to do as much, but it's going to take those native images and deploy them. So here's an example, very similar to what we're doing right now, where I can go and build an image, create a manifest. I can deploy in Cloud Foundry this same app, an example like we're building right now. In Cloud Foundry, I can run it on a 1 GB container image, or using the Java build pack, or I could build that native image like we're doing now, and I could use the static build pack, the binary build pack, and give it a much smaller container. So that infrastructure that I'm using is going to be much smaller. It's still my Spring Boot app, but it's using Spring Boot 3 with the AOT processing, and I can deliver that to Cloud Foundry just like I've done in the past with my other Spring Boot apps. So if you've got a Cloud Foundry foundation and you would like to maybe get some more resources back, you want to get a little bit more workload into the same amount of infrastructure, this is one option. You can build your AOT processing, your native images, and you can deploy those using the binary build pack to Cloud Foundry. So yes, the answer is yes. Thank you for asking that question. Yes, I'll put that repository back up. So here's a good example, and it's just like we're doing right now. Thank you for pointing that out. I couldn't find the parent dependency to find that the version, but we found it. Let's see. We got some other questions. Here's a question. When you build app containing many microservices, what type of connection between microservices do you choose? REST, Queue like RabbitMQ, or something else? What are the pros and cons? This is a good question. I'm going to leave that up and I'm going to jump over. Let's just talk. What does that mean? Sorry, that was a conversation. Let me save that because it was a good conversation. Very similar to what we're talking about, right? there's lots of Cloud Foundry out there, and lots of folks are trying to, get more bang for the buck. Like let's get more usage out of the stuff that we're doing. So here, let's say we've got 3 services. Service A, service B, and C. And the question is like, hey, like, should we be communicating this way, where my app is communicating directly to each service? Is that good? And if we are doing it that way, should it be HTTP, gRPC, right, REST, or messaging? I get it. So this is a decision, and really, it's kind of a decision on. It depends on what you need, because as you do this, you've got to, the more services that you add to the mix, the more things, right? Service A might be a client of service B, but vice versa. Like, what do things look like? Do we have clients for all of those services? As you can see, at scale, that might get interesting. If nothing else, it might get interesting. So instead of calling service to service directly, one option is maybe we don't do that. Maybe we put things onto a queue, right? This is queue as an option. So service A wants something from service B or C. It says, hey, I want something. And it throws a message, and service B and C are listening, right? And vice versa. I could, if ever I need something from some other client, I could add information to this message bus, this message queue, and I can deliver, and I can make calls that way. And as you can see, this, as you can imagine, this might be a little bit less complex, right? As the number of services grows, you can make calls, and really your only interface, your client is interfacing, your client and your service are interfacing with the message queue for something like RabbitMQ. So there's pros and cons, and it depends on your scale. There's pros and cons of each, but it really depends on what you're trying to do. Like, what are the important parts? Is there time constraints? Because this implies some sort of asynchronous communication. If you need synchronous communication, then something like a REST approach might be more beneficial. So yeah, there's pros and cons of both, but that's also a good question. Tell me more about your situation, and maybe we can dig into that a little bit. So yeah, look up the palm. Good. Hello. Thanks for joining us. Remove the second Spring Boot plugin. All right, here's a different question on declarative clients. What is the advice for non-blocking interface clients in Spring 6? We are currently using Spring Cloud Open Feign, which lacks non-blocking support. All right, so Dinesh, I thank you for joining. Thank you for bringing the question. I think I needed a little bit more information. So these declarative clients, we have this new option of declarative clients in Spring 6, and we can do them using both the web, our blocking client, or the non-blocking, the reactive client, the web client. And I think you have options for both. What's the advice? It depends, right? It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Why do you need the non-blocking client? So I think I might need a little bit more, but look at here, we see like, hey, this uses the web client reactive under the hood. You have the option to make it reactive or non-reactive. So the web client, you can still use the web client for non-reactive calls. It's good questions. With that, I'm gonna jump back over here to whatever I was doing. It says, hey, I think, oh no, I didn't stand up my it's another machine yet. So let me get that booted up. I was answering questions. Oh, look at this. Thank you so much. Hello, Todd Libby. For those of you that don't know, Todd is an amazing presenter. I got to meet him in person at DevNexus a couple of weeks ago. I'm a fan. You should follow him on Twitter. Super smart. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. What we're doing is I think I now have a Docker instance up, or at least it's coming up. We're going to try this again on our x86. We're going to try to build a native image. So the only change that we did was we added that native flag for our Spring Boot build image plugin. And now this is going to take some time. It's on a slower machine. What I should have done, I should have said skip tests so it go a little bit faster, right? Because we're pros. So this version, after it runs its tests, it's going to pull down the builder. Now look at that. So it was a change. So on the other version, we saw it was builder base is what I was pulling down. And now we are doing builder tiny. So maybe I was confused. Dinesh, I'm glad you found value there. So here again, we can see that we're grabbing the native image. So the container that we generate is going to have the native. It will not have a layer with the JVM. And it's that simple. That simple. So circling back. So here. So another question that I had just earlier today. Somebody who's using ARM64, they want to deliver an artifact, but they don't want to build it on that edge device. So something a Raspberry Pi, in this case, was a Rock Pi. They don't want to run Docker. The device is too small. So how would I do that? Well, out of these images, out of this image, for example, you still get the artifacts. So whether you're doing the native image or the not native image, there's still a jar file in there. There's still, in this case, there's still an executable in there. So one of the options that I have, if I'm running on, this is a Linux box x86. So it's that architecture and operating system combination of what you're delivering. So we're delivering a Linux operating system, and x86 is the chipset versus Linux and ARM64. But the native image, it's statically linked. So it's only going to run on Linux x86. I can't take that image and run it on Darwin, on my Mac, or on a Windows machine. No, I can. It's a Docker image, but I can't run it on a different architecture. It's going to do the same for both. The artifact inside of it, I can't run it on my Windows machine. So I'll show that here in just a sec. So I don't have to build the native images inside of the builder either. I can build the native image without using Docker and just build it natively, but then it's only going to be for that architecture and operating system. And here, is there a way to pass base image while building Spring Boot build image? Reason, we have compliance to scan any image we use before deploying to prod. Absolutely. That is another solid question. So let's do this. Let's go over here. And you already actually saw one way of doing it. So I will show this example. Here, what I did was I changed the configuration for that plugin. I said, hey, I want to use this builder instead of the default one. So this is one approach of doing it. If you're using the pack CLI, you can also pass it in there. But you absolutely can. I can pass in a builder. I can also pass in, I believe, build. This doesn't have the refresh. Whoops. I can also pass in the build packs that I want. Down here, packaging. Not here. Here we go. I can also pass in, where's the examples? Repackage. Here we go. The examples, I cannot I can pass in, hey, here's what I want to do. I'm going to jump to where I'm passing in multiple build packs. Is that the one? Let's do this one. Build packs. So I don't just have to pass in a builder. I can also pass in build packs. And I can say, hey, I want to use this pack and this pack. So in that list where we're saying, hey, I've got a list of 15 build packs and it's going to use 6 of them, I could give it just 2 build packs. So it's not analyzing all 15. Maybe I don't have any .NET. Maybe I don't have any need for SIFT, or maybe I'm using my own certificates. I can pass in the build packs that I want to use specifically. And the Spring Boot Maven plugin can still generate your image using those build packs. So as this is still going, again, this AOT processing aspect, it's my favorite feature of the Spring Boot 3 and Spring Framework 6 upgrades. This is taking our Spring Boot app and it's analyzing all the things, all the ways it could possibly go, and giving us a statically linked binary. And that binary, in this case, we built an OCI image with it. And now we have that. And that's our image that we just created. Do we have anything to compare it to? But it's a tiny image. Let's do this, another version of that. So instead of using the builder, let's just do this -p native compile. And then the same thing. I just kind of want to give you a sense. No, actually, let's do it this way. Do clean package. Sure, about something. We're going to run a test again. This is just a simple app that we built from start.spring.io. Same example. Follow-up question from Anish. If there is which base image options are available at Bell Software? Yes, good question. This is a good question. We have tons to choose from, and you can always make your own. So let's go to Paketo is where I think is a great place to start. Paketo has all sorts of build packs for you to choose from. So here we have some options. Gradle, then again, Maven, SBT. This is a good place to start. You have some options below. I know there's a list of, here we go, our JVMs and the build packs that we can use. So I'll throw this into the chat. And Dinesh, I hope that helps. And here, I think they mean base image as in what you might put inside a Docker file. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. So I can choose what I want. I can choose kind of the OS layer. Each of these build packs is going to have a different, or could have a different base image, that from base layer. But this will provide that base layer and the runtime. That JVM layer is what we're looking at right here. Good question, Dinesh. I am happy to help. And I'm happy that you're back. I'm glad that you're finding value in what we're doing here. So circling back to our example, all I did was a clean package. And this time I'm going to do MVNW Spring Boot start. Is that what I want to do? Oh, let's do it this way. Start. So that I'll get my terminal back. So this is starting up. It's Spring Boot 3.0.5. And here's my process ID. It started up in 2.384 seconds. Here's my process ID. And what I want to do is I'm going to do this VM map, the process ID, and I'm going to look for this physical part. So this app that we just ran in the background, it's running right now. It's 132 megs, peaked at 216 megs. Awesome. So that's our regular Spring Boot app. We can do this HAP 8080 actuator health, and you can kind of see like, hey, yeah, it's up and running, and it's up. It's healthy. So our little app that we just did from start.spring.io, it's working. So let's do this MVNW Spring Boot stop. and then I'll shut it down. Cool. So now I want to do this, and this will take a while, and then I'll get to Benjamin's question. -p native compile. It'll take a minute. It's not doing it in a Docker image. This is on a Darwin machine. This is on a Mac, but it's an x86 Mac. When I'm done with this, the statically linked binary will only be able to be used on a Mac, a Darwin operating system with an x86 processor. It will not work on my M1. Inside the image, the base image we were using was a Linux image. So that Docker image can run across the board. That Docker image will run pretty much anywhere you're using Docker with that same processor, that x86 processor. So here's, we'll let that run, and then let's look at Benjamin's question. Benjamin says, hey, DaShaun, just a little curious. How do you specify the name of the image you want and the tag? Excellent question. Let's take a look. Here in that same plugin, I have those configurations. Some image name. I can say, hey, I want to name it this. I can give it a tag in there as well. So you have those same configurations. By default, it's showing you right here. By default, it's going to use the product or the project's artifact ID and the project version. But you can also pass in that configuration using the Spring Boot Maven plugin. And there's a similar plugin, github.com, DaShaun, this one. There's a similar plugin for Gradle. And in there, you can do similar things as well. I think what I'm doing in the configuration down here, I'm saying, hey, BP native image is true. And I give it this image name. I'm using the project version and the operating system because I'm doing this cool phase where I deliver multi-architecture Docker images. Hey, Todd, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you. And it was wonderful and a pleasure to meet you. Good luck. Thank you for stopping in. So here, hopefully that answers your question. You can absolutely specify the name of the image you want. So if you've got a different repository that you want to put it in, you can do that as well. Absolutely configurable. Hopefully that answered your question. Our build that we kicked off a little bit ago is still running. My little x86 2020 Mac is, the fans are going. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's running in the background. And what I want to do is when this is done, I want to kind of show you a side-by-side of why you might want to upgrade to Spring Boot 3. If you saw earlier in the Golden Path episode, we had Paul Baker, and he was talking about Netflix's journey and all the things. They upgraded thousands of apps to Java 17. He shared Netflix does not have their own JVM. They're using the Zulu JVM. He talked about the benefit that he explained that they were getting like a 20% performance boost just by upgrading to Java 17. And at scale, he pointed out that's a lot of money, which makes absolute sense. It makes absolute sense. At that scale, 20% performance improvement is going to do a lot of stuff. So one of the benefits, after you upgrade to Java 17, you have the option. Netflix has already started. Again, thousands of apps. They're on that journey of upgrading to Spring Boot 3. You should be on that journey of upgrading to Spring Boot 3. I want to show you why. So this is going to take a while. We're doing all this stuff. But one of the outputs is not just performance. Some workloads are going to perform better. Some workloads are going to start up faster. Most workloads, by upgrading to Spring Boot 3, even without the AOT processing, are going to provide a lot of other benefits. There are some changes. A lot of workloads are going to be able to upgrade seamlessly. You can use things like open rewrite recipes to help you with those migrations, help you with those upgrades. And and the benefits we'll look at here in a minute. So I'm going to jump back. While that's building, while those fans are going brr, let's see if we got any other questions. Again, if you have questions, now's the time. That's what office hours is about. Now's the time to ask your questions, and hopefully we can answer. I don't have all the answers. I see you, James. Thank you for joining. It's good to see you. I don't have all the answers, but I have Slack. And I know some of the folks that might be able to get you the answers, like Todd. Any news on the rumored web client-like REST template successor? I think we've addressed this on the show before. I think REST template is going to be around. I don't think it's going anywhere. Web client is already there. You can use web client for both synchronous and asynchronous calls. But I don't know anything about a web client like REST template successor. So I apologize, but good question. I'll keep my ears open. My thing, I like getting to production. So like the changing things, a lot of the language benefits, I just like getting to production. I want to get production fast and frequently and safely. I want to do it securely. So yeah, that's why maybe I lean into build packs, because they make getting to production easier. They make it consistent. Friends don't let friends use Docker files. Don't do it. Hello. Thank you so much for joining. Where are you joining us from? Let us know where you're joining from. Happy to have you. Bring your questions. Quick question. When using Docker Compose, can I use the command to build? Yes, absolutely. Can I use the output of my Spring Boot build image plugin? Yes, you can. You can use that with Docker Compose. I thought we did that in our last session. I thought we were doing that. But yes, it's an OCI compliant image that you can use with Docker Compose. This is still taking a while, a lot longer than it did on the M1. But this is what we're doing. I appreciate you guys joining so much. I'm sorry that we didn't have an episode last week. And I was hoping that you'd have a lot of questions. I was hoping that, hey, maybe you missed us as much as we missed you, and we could answer some questions. But this is what I enjoy doing. I am working with a lot of organizations that are on that journey of upgrading from Spring Boot 2 to Spring Boot 3. And this is what it looks like. This is why. I can kind of show what it looks like here in a second as well. I have been working a lot, so I did watch the last one. Was that the last office hour with Dan or just yourself? The last office hours was, it was 2 weeks ago on the 4th, I believe. And we were live from DevNexus, where I met Todd Libby, who was on here earlier. We did not have an episode last week. But yeah, I'm glad that you're keeping up. I'm glad you're keeping up with the episodes. In my org, if my org has their own Docker base image and I want to build using build packs, do I have to create my own build pack to reference the base image? Yeah, so this is an interesting question, but yeah, the simple answer is yes. But I think, let me think about this. The easy answer is yes, let's create a new build pack. And creating a new build pack is not difficult. I will point you to an example. First of all, build packs.io has a great intro here, creating your own build pack. And I followed it. And this guide is, maybe it'll take you an hour max. If you're one that's going to read all the steps where I'm kind of like skipping ahead and copy the things that need to happen and going. If you read all the stuff and you try to understand all the stuff, it might take you an hour. But going through that, I think this one, yep, you'll create a Ruby build pack. But I took the exact same steps and I created a COBOL. I made a COBOL. I created a COBOL build pack. COBOL is an old language. It's still around. But it was really just to exercise the muscle. I wanted to build a build pack using something that I wasn't familiar with, something in order to support somebody else and prove that I could. And just going through that exercise is worth it. So don't be afraid of building a build pack. It's not as hard as you might think that it is. It's much easier to maintain than Docker files. So let's take a look. So if you are interested in building your own build pack, you want to see what that looks like. Yeah, let's jump in and let's see what that might look like. Let's see how we can do that. That'd be a fun project. What else? There was something else I want to say there. Build packs, backup. Oh, the build packs. There was just an announcement from CNCF that now there's a build pack community. So this is a new announcement, the build pack community, and this is where you can kind of learn, stay up to date with the latest and greatest. You should definitely check this out. So they're going to have office hours. I think it might be catching on. Office hours is a great way. It's the thing that I wish I had. And especially as things are growing, all the different abstractions, all the different patterns that we have access to, isn't it nice? Wouldn't it be nice to have someplace to go to ask your questions? Office hours. Let's start contributing. But this is new. I just saw this announcement. I think it came out of KubeCon EU that's going on right now over in Amsterdam. So good stuff. Check it out. That's today. So this happened at 9 a.m. today, the working group. That's why we just heard about it. All right, let's see how our build is doing. We're still chugging along. That machine is not super fast. Maybe it's because something else is running. This Graal VM is going to use as much of the processor as it can. So I want to give it as much of the processor as possible. So let me go see if I can stop some of the other processes that are happening on that machine to make it, give it a little bit more horsepower, make it go faster. Oh, and it looks like we're done. All right, 11 minutes and 27 seconds. My Raspberry Pi can do that. I need to download more CPU. That is exactly what I need to do. And this is fun. This is what we're doing. But 11 minutes, I'm pretty sure that my Raspberry Pi can do a build in 14 minutes last time I checked. Okay, but cool. Now we have this artifact. We've got a demo build. This statically linked target demo. And run it in the background. So here's the process. I got my process ID. I see it here. I'm going to copy that. But let's look here. It started up in 0.084 seconds. Do we remember what it started up last time? It was 2.384 seconds last time. So on the JVM, it took this long. Still not that big of a deal. It worked. And then we checked the memory footprint was 216 at max. 132 is what it was doing at the moment. So let's do that same thing. So that's running in the background. Let's do that same VM map. This new process ID that we have, 27559 that we got in our logs. And we want to do the same pipe prep physical. So you'll notice, first of all, you notice that the memory footprint is the exact same. Like the footprint that you get is the one that's going to be consistent. 34. So that's like a quarter of the memory. So as you continue on your journey and you start to look at why might I want to look at Spring Boot 3, hopefully this helps. Let's do our little quick health check. 8080 actuator health. And I know I have to click a button somewhere. Oh, it's up. Wonderful. So it's fast. It works. It does things. This is one reason why you might want to take a look at upgrading to Spring Boot 3. Good stuff. Hot sauce is my good friend Josh Long. I named this episode Hot Sauce because that's what he likes to say. Good stuff, hot sauce. That's what we're doing here. So I'm going to pull this down and I'm going to jump back over. It looks like we got a question. How would you implement health checks on a Spring Boot application running inside a Docker image built with the default Oh, we just did this. We just did this. So my health checks using the actuator, we get health checks out of the box. So that's what we just did. We got that health check. Oh, let me pull that back up. So before, this build, we did the native image, but I can build this using Spring Boot build image just the same. But let me show you. Because I used the actuator, here I added the actuator. The actuator by default gives me some health checks. If I were to add Redis, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go and Spring Boot Starter Redis. I want to show you an example of how this works. Add Redis. And this is lame that I'm doing it this way. I'm going to try to figure out group ID or Spring Framework Boot group ID. And what I want is artifact ID. Spring Boot. Is it data server Redis? Before I commit that, let's go take a look. This is my cheat code. I'm going to start.spring.io. I'm going to do this, Redis, sure, either one. And then I'm going to look at it and I'm going to say, hey, what did you do? Oops. But I'm going to do it as Maven. And then I'll look and I can see here we are, Origin River Boot. And I'm going to copy this. Spring Boot Starter Data Redis dash reactive. Spring Boot Starter Data. Spring Boot Starter Data Redis reactive. Spring Boot Starter Data Redis reactive. Cool. Now, MBNW clean install. So, oh, I had a typo. Whoops, I had a typo somewhere. Oh, I didn't finish my dependency line. Dependency. Cool. I'm not referencing anything Redis. So let's see this. MBNW Spring Boot. Application failed to start. Oh, it's already in use. All right. No. Kill. This is the native image version that we were running before. 2755. Cool. Let's use that port again. Taking a look. Okay, it's up and running. But now what I want to do, I want to do something a little different. Because I have the actuator. Oh, because I didn't reference it. Localhost a actuator health. Oh, I'm on the other machine. Sorry. Please hold. What is that other machine's name? Because it's down. Why does it say it's down? It was working. All we did was add that Redis dependency, the Redis starter. It's down because the Redis starter says, I can't connect to Redis. So I automatically get this actuator health where it's saying, hey, I'm not available. And we can kind of dig into that a little bit as well. Let me add one piece. Hopefully that answered. You said, how do we do that? Earlier, I used curl commands against an actuator port, but curl is not included in the default build pack. Oh, okay. I think what you're saying is like, how do I make it so that my Docker image is reporting healthy or not? So the image itself needs some sort of curl command to be able to call the actuator URL. So typically when we're deploying, I'm going to jump back over. I think I'm following you. So typically when we're deploying, I'm going to draw this. I'm doing something. So let's change this to a gateway. I'm going to change this. Change this to a gateway. So with those endpoints, and this is something that I might do, do I want to send traffic? Right, with this gateway pattern, with this concept, maybe I want my gateway to be checking. So instead of inside the Docker image, I can have my gateway check. Hey, are you healthy? Checking that endpoint. So in a recent example, I did here, my children were never deploy active passive. We have something that, do we want to route traffic? So in this case, Spring Cloud Gateway is one way. Here's Azure Front Doors is another way. The idea is like, hey, before you look, we want to make sure that backend service is healthy. So Azure Front Door, I can pass in and say, hey, hit that actuator health endpoint and use this protocol and make sure we're going to hit it every 5 seconds. But I want that endpoint to tell me that we're up and we're ready to take traffic. If it doesn't, if it's not ready to take traffic, then I'm not going to send it traffic. If it's not healthy, I'm not routing traffic that way. I could have something like a circuit breaker where I could send a default response back if you were trying to access something from service C. But it doesn't even have to be from service C. Maybe these are just all instances of service A. Right? Maybe they're all instances of service A, and we're asking for service A. The gateway can keep track of who's healthy and who's not. Which implementation, which instance should I send traffic to? If I need to scale, I can make those kind of decisions based on the health of that service, based on the health of that actuator endpoint. So you have options. It doesn't necessarily need to be inside of the image, because inside the image isn't going to do you much good, right? If inside of that image, I'm checking, am I healthy or not? No, we want to be able to expose that to those other services that are calling us. And even if that's on a different port, like I saw you mention, healthy, like 80, 81. Maybe you don't want to expose your health, your actuator endpoints. Maybe you do not want those exposed to the public. So you have those exposed on a port that's not exposed to the public. The gateway can still check that port to see whether it's healthy or not, to get status, to see if we want to send traffic without exposing those details to the rest of the world. Thomas, thank you. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully that makes sense. Great questions. This is it. This is what we're doing. This is what we're here for. Your OS memory must be ridiculous to run builds this fast. Sometimes things go faster than others. So excellent. These are fun questions. I don't know what's happening here. Oh, hey, I couldn't connect to Redis, so my health was down. So great. So that was just that example of showing how we get those actuator endpoints built into the ecosystem. If I were to put MySQL starter in there, I'd get the same. I would get an actuator health check that would say, hey, yes, I can connect to MySQL or not. And right now it's checking on the default port, default address for those. Yeah, you get things out of the box, but we could also pass in the Redis port, Redis host, Redis username, Redis password. We could pass those in and it would still look and say, hey, can I get to that service? If I can't get to that service, don't send me any traffic. Tell upstream, do the gateway or that front door or other. Don't send me any traffic. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm glad this is making sense. This is fun. This is fun. Any other questions? This is what we're doing. I'm hoping that you, let's see. Here we go. It says, I'm sure your native build pack is brilliant, but do you know if there's any plans for a more official one from the Spring Boot team? As one, I can tell you this, it won't be from the Spring Boot team for ARM64. So my build pack is for ARM64. From the Spring Boot team, they're not doing that. The ARM64 support for Paketo build pack is going to come from the Paketo team. And my good friend, Daniel Makusa, has already done the work for the base images, the stack, if you will, making that multi-architecture. And I am actively working on trying to do that. So my build pack is having issues today. And I told Daniel Makusa earlier today that I'm actively trying to work on a new release for my build pack that's going to use the stack, the multi-architecture stack available from Paketo. So we're getting one step closer to having a multi-architecture build pack for Spring Boot. I'm on the show. You got to say hi to everybody. Can you say hi?
Hi.
This is my 4-year-old. So I think that means it's time to wrap up the show. And let's see, one last one. Is that easily configurable in Spring Cloud Gateway? The health check, yes. And we can actually, I'm going to leave this up here. We can do an example of that next time. Talk about how we can decide whether or not to route traffic to one of those back-end services using Spring Cloud Gateway. We can absolutely do that. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining this week. I wish you the best of luck. Let's see how we can continue to move forward. Upgrade to Spring Boot 3. Let me know if you run into any problems. Bring your questions. Let's do that. I'm going to put that into my backlog right now as something that we're already working on it. I'm already, doing this example over here. Might as well. Hey, you are very welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Yes. Awesome. I appreciate you all. Yeah. Join us next time for Spring Office. Oh, before I let you go, don't forget to send your address, your mailing, your postal address to stickers at springofficehours.io. I know I have a backlog of stickers that need to go out. We got a new version 2 of the sticker. Version 1 you can no longer get. There are no more version 1 stickers available from us, but version 2 is on the way. Version 2 stickers. If you like Spring Office Hours stickers, send us an email. Send us your address, as it should be on the envelope. Coming from the US, so send me the address like it's supposed to be on the envelope, and I will send you some stickers. We will send you some stickers. Stickers at springofficehours.io. There you go. With that, we'll see you next time.